to Behind the Music. This is Sean. This is the show where we interview extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. And today I have the privilege of interviewing one of my sheroes, Miss Jlatoyia. She is the owner of Studio 806. She does real estate. She's played for Music Soul Child. She's played for Risen. She has endorsements with Sabian, Vader, Drumsticks, Aquarian Drumheads, and the list goes on and on.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing, Jlatoyia? And I wanted to thank you for allowing me to interview you today. It's an honor.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, you consistent. You always commenting and encouragement. I appreciate that.
This is Behind the Music. This is Sean. Today I'm interviewing Jlatoyia, the legend herself. It's an honor.
Legend.
Yeah,
okay.
The legend.
I received it.
And first I wanted to ask you, how did you get your start in music?
I got my start in music. Well, I come from a musical family. And one Sunday night, the drummer wasn't there. So I remember asking my aunt, who was the minister of music at the time, if I could play. And the funniest thing I remember about that night, she told me, yes, but keep your skirt down. So, and I was about 10 years old, and that was like the start of me playing drums. Yeah. So.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And did you face any challenges growing up as a female drummer?
Well, I did. Well, first challenge I faced was, at the time I started playing it, that really wasn't popular for females to play. So even though I could play, a lot of people didn't allow me to play because that wasn't a popular thing for females to play. So what I started doing is I grew up in a Pentecostal church. And so we had church. I don't want to exaggerate, but it was almost like every day of the week. We had something on Wednesday called Bible Band. It was kind of like Bible study. So, they would do a little testimony song. So I would go to Bible Band so I could play the drums. I knew no drummer was going to be there. Then we had Friday night church. So I would go to church on Friday. So I figured it out. I'm like, you're not going to let me play on Sundays. So let me find a way I can play, and not have to, we had a bunch of drummers at the time. So find a way I don't have to switch and let somebody, else play. So I would go on Friday nights and I would figure it out. Sometimes I would be on it. Sometimes I would roll and get off beat and everybody be fussing, but that's really how I got my start, just playing, testimony service is what they called it back then. We weren't doing praise and worship. We were having testimony service.
I heard about testimony services.
Oh, yeah. I feel like testimony service for all musicians is a great start for you to develop your ear and improv, because you never knew what they were going to sing for one, what key they were going to sing in, and then what beat they were going to sing. Because most people that singing are not really musically inclined. They're just singing what they feel. So you as the musician, you have to try to figure out what key and what's the beat. And it was a great way to develop your improvisation, So, yeah, that's in the, I'd probably say the late 80s, so like 88, 89, 90 is, when I really started. So back then people were kind of started evolving praise and worship, but it was mostly like testimony service, motion as they, So, yeah, that's how I got my start, and, me, like I said, me being a female, it just wasn't popular. You had, your Sheila E's and Terry Lynn Carrington, but for the most part, women weren't playing drums like that. So again, I could play, but nobody would let me play. So, yeah.
And that's awesome that you paved the way for a lot of the female drummers out now, because I see more and more female drummers, especially on Instagram, TikTok.
Absolutely. Yes. You know what? Like growing up in church, so I like Sheila E. I think she's amazing. But again, with me being in church, a lot of stuff wasn't R&B wasn't accessible to me. So Cheryl Harper, she lives here in Atlanta. I have a relationship with her now, and it's like she was my Sheila E. growing up because that's the only female that I saw on a consistent basis, And so Cheryl really paved the way for me. It was like seeing her. She was at that time. I mean, she was playing with everybody from the Pace Sisters to Mississippi Mass Choir, Colorado Mass. She was doing all these albums, and she was my Sheila E. And it's even now. Sometimes I'll be around her, and it's like she's like, sis, we family. I'm like, no, you don't understand. You were like my Sheila E, and then I had access to you, So she really paved the way for me, being a female drummer. So yeah, it's and piggyback off what you said, it is a way more females playing now. But I'll probably say within the last 10 years or so, now it's becoming more popular for females to play because it was always known as a male dominating instrument. Oh no, girls don't play, guys play drums, And I'm like, well, guys play piano, girls play piano, like, or guitar, but it was just something about the drums. It's no different than the tuba. Girls don't play tuba, guys play tuba. So, yeah.
You do have a good point. Because they don't mention that about piano players when guys play piano.
Yeah, it's not a problem, or, flutes. Guys play, a lot of guys that play like saxophone, they play flute. And, flute and clarinets are girl musicians. I mean, female instruments, So it's just the mindset. But I think, like I said, in the last maybe 10 years, people are like, no, an instrument is you play and play what you feel. Play an instrument that you feel like you connect with. And it's a lot more acceptable, for lack of a better word. Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, it should be, but it's not. I mean, matter of fact, I could play because I grew up, my brother plays drums too. So we had a drum set at the house. And I remember when everybody would leave, I would go and we had the drum set in the garage. So I would open up the door and we had a record player. And I would play along with the records. I was too embarrassed to play in front of anybody. So even when I got on drums at the church, I had been playing at the house, but nobody knew. And so, again, I was ashamed because that wasn't an instrument that women played. So, yeah, but I'm grateful that people are starting to embrace, like, it's okay to play drums. And a lot of these females now, they can actually play. That used to be another thing. A lot of females that did play instruments, they were subpar. They just weren't good. And I don't know if it's because guys didn't give them an opportunity, or I don't know why, but, growing up, well, in Orlando, the girls that I saw play, they could actually play like guys. If you closed your eyes, they could play like guys. But when I would go other places, yeah, they couldn't play. As a matter of fact, I don't want to name drop, but growing up, I don't know if you heard of Cassandra O'Neal.
I never heard of her.
Okay, so Cassandra played for Prince. She played for Mary J. Blige, 98 Degrees. She's done a lot of things. So me growing up in Orlando, I saw her playing keyboard. So she was one of the female musicians that I saw, and I'm like, she can actually play. And women can play. So, yeah.
Hey, I'm happy women are finally getting the respect they deserve on the drums now.
Absolutely. Just all across the board, not even just on drums, just across the board, I remember when I moved to Atlanta, I moved with another female musician too. And it was like, when we moved here, people started to respect us. They were like, no, y'all can actually play. They already had some musicians in Atlanta that did play, but it was like an influx of female musicians started to move here, and people started to respect us. So, yeah, it feels good to have people respect you,
And what was your inspiration for starting Studio 806?
Well, my inspiration for starting Studio 806 was I have a lot of friends that were on the road, but then it was like when it's good, it's good. And when it wasn't, it wasn't. And I'm like, okay, I can't live like that, where I get all of this money, and then when it's gone, I have nothing to show for it. So my thing was, I'm like, well, let me open up a studio. I get to do what I love, and if I go on tour, I can still make money while I'm gone. So I always wanted to be the person to have multiple sources of income. So that was kind of the inspiration of me, wanting to start Studio 806, just to be able to do what I love and still make money doing it, and provide an affordable platform. And a lot of people may not have that. So I was like, I want to be the person that can provide a platform that's affordable to help you fulfill your dreams. And still for me to make money too. So it's like a win-win for everybody. I'm not trying to, break your head. I want to make a little bit of money and still help you too. So, and I know you see my studio that I have here. When I lived in Orlando, I opened up a studio in '07, and I had a commercial building.
Oh.
And everything. Yeah, had a commercial building from '07 to '09, and then I moved to Atlanta. And then I was like, I don't want to do the studio thing anymore until I got a house. And I'm like, I have all the studio equipment. Why?
I remember like when the pandemic first hit, you were having like live services and different videos in Studio 806.
Right, and that's crazy how it happened. So when like I said, I had all this studio equipment. So in my mind I was in an all-female band. We needed somewhere to rehearse, and then I wanted some place for me to record my drum covers. So I'm like, well, I got this big room, so I'll just make it accessible for me, myself, and my band. So when the pandemic happened, people started hitting me up like, hey, can I record in your spot? And it's just been a blessing. God has really been sending people my way, and it's like I've honestly just started posting things on social media for the studio because it was all word of mouth.
Wow, that's a blessing. Did you produce the Venus album in Studio 806?
So no, I didn't produce it in Studio 806, but I took at that time I was living in an apartment, so the bass player had a basement, so I packed all of my stuff up and took it to her basement, and I put up microphones and everything, and we recorded the Venus Christmas album in her basement, with my gear. And everybody was like, wow, y'all record. I mean, we did everything. The only thing, we didn't mix and master it, but we wrote it, arranged it, recorded it, and Tasia did the graphics, so everything was in-house. And it's amazing because you never know. Like when I had my studio and everything, I never thought that I would be doing this in Atlanta. I was like, oh, that's just something I did in Orlando. But it being in Orlando, having that studio kind of set the foundation for me now. So stuff that I was doing then is second nature now because I've been doing it so long. A lot of people's like, oh, I didn't know you produced. I didn't really advertise it because again, that's something I did in Orlando. I want to be a drummer. I don't want to be a producer, but it's like it's okay for you to still play drums and produce.
How does it feel to have your vision come to life?
Oh man, it's like watching your baby grow. It's almost like watching your child. It superseded my imagination. Like again, when I remember buying this house, I was like, it was just a mess. And for months, I avoided coming in here because, what am I going to do to it? So one day, my neighbor was like, let's build a stage. And I was like, I don't want to build no stage. He's like, no, build a stage and you can put your drums up there. And so then I was like, okay, let me just kind of hone in. And so I just decided to paint all the walls black and make it feel like a rehearsal hall somewhere, like a sound stage in LA. And he built the stage, and then the stuff started just kind of start coming together. And I remember just like buying I just wanted to be eclectic. So my mom got me a piano, and it was brown, and I was like, it's not fitting the aesthetics. I painted the piano red. I got the tile floors; they all different colors, and I was just like, I want when people walk in here, I want them to feel the creativity, you know. So I'm really be honest. I cannot take the credit. It's God that just gives me visions, and I mean, I really want to get into real estate too. So it was just like even to see the things that I've done with this is gonna help me for my real estate, you know. So I'm like, if I could just, I mean, I'm sure you've been following me. So this room was terrible. I'm just telling you. When I say it was terrible, it's terrible. Yeah. And now it's the room that I love the most. And that's crazy to me. I'm like, the room that I hated is the room that I love.
I remember when you posted the before and after pictures on Facebook. It did not look like the same room.
Oh, God. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was like the previous owner, like they had built little houses and stuff, and it would turn like the lights. It just it gave me Beetlejuice. That's all I could think of, and that was just like it just was kind of a little eerie. And I mean, I was just like I said, I avoided it for months, and I'm like, I have to do something with it. And I mean, to see it now, and it's just amazing. It's like when people come in here, everybody says the same thing. It's like I just feel so creative, and I'm like, it just really it super exceeded my imagination. I never would have thought. I mean, I've been having people come in, like start having artists now are starting to come in here and rehearse, record. You know, I'm just thinking. There's be some, you know, my friends will come over here and I record them and practice, but no, like God is really allowing me to connect with industry people, you know. So yeah, man, it's amazing. Just watch, just like you said, just to watch your dreams come to fruition.
And that's definitely a blessing. And I can see how remodeling the room and giving it a whole different feel can tie in with real estate, because you have to be creative to do real estate, because you have to see the vision before it's even there.
Right, because a lot of times I remember telling my friends, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they're like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And I'm like, which led me to say this. I really believe everything that we do, it's like it's divine. It's like God sets things in order for you to be able to accomplish whatever you want to do. So, for example, I've been really wanting to get into real estate for a while, but me like renovating my house, renovating this room, I'm like, if I can renovate this old house, I can only imagine what I can do with other things. I mean, one of the rooms I have, it was wood from the top, from the bottom of the floor to the top. And nobody wanted to go back there. And they were like, what are you going to do with this? In my head, I was like, this is going to be the other part of my studio. I didn't know when. I could see it. And I'm just like I said, I feel like this is the thing that's going to help me get I really want to flip houses. So that's another adventure I want to do. I'm a person where, like I was telling you about, just multiple sources of income. Like, I want to be able to allow my business to fund my dreams. So whatever I want to do, whether I want to go get a commercial building, I want another building to fund it. Because a lot of times when you have visions and dreams, you don't have the resources, I feel like it clouds your creativity because you're worried about, like, how am I going to pay for this? You know? So I know I'm probably all over the place, but
you're not.
Yeah, just trying to, give you a little background of what I got going on. So, all right, we're going to get back on track. Well, what's your next question?
It's okay. Actually, what you were saying leaded into my next question, which was, how did you come up with the phrase "more than a drummer"?
Okay, so I just remember growing up, and to me, the drummers were always the low end of the totem pole. That's how it felt. Oh, that's just a drummer. That's just a drummer. And I would be like, I'm much more than a drummer. So when I started really getting into producing, I'm like, I'm more than a drummer. I don't just play drums. If I need to MD the band, I'm gonna MD the band. I'm a leader. And so I don't want you to just look at me. And a lot of times church will paint this mentality of, oh, it's the drummer. Yeah, I'm the drummer. but I do other things as well. So I now just been trying to motivate other drummers. Like, no, you're not just a drummer. No, you're not gonna. They're not gonna pay you $50 because you. No, you the MD. You gonna come with your tracks. Like, be professional. So yeah, from that, I just came up with the phrase "more than a drummer," and I've been seeing a lot of drummers hashtagging it. Like, yeah, and I think I started that hashtag about 2011 because that's when I produced my first album. And I started every time I would post something that was a part of the album, I would post more than the drummer, so people will know I produced this record and I didn't just play it, I produced it. So just trying to motivate people. I'm all about empowering people. So
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
absolutely, yeah. It's like iron sharpens iron. Yeah, I'm sure something you could do that's gonna motivate me. And you're encouraging words. Like you just send me encouraging words. I'll be like, he's just good people. You know, no ulterior motives. It's just, hey, sis, music in my spirit. Blah blah. Just little things. But yeah.
What was the most memorable moment in your career?
The most memorable moment. Let's see. Being on the plane flying overseas, and I'm thinking like, I'm flying overseas to go do something that I love, and I'm getting paid to do it. And I'm like, this is things that you dream about as a kid. A lot of people want to be on the road or on tour, and a lot of people don't get that opportunity. I'm like, for me to be on an airplane flying overseas, to be able to do something that I love, get to see the world and I'm not paying for it. Yeah, that was amazing. I think the first place I went overseas was Italy. And when it was like, I think it hit me when I went to London. I'm like, wait, I'm going to London to play music in a whole other country?
Nice.
Yeah, that's one of my most memorable moments. Yeah.
And how did you meet Risen?
So I was living in Nashville, and a friend of mine, they wanted him to play the drums, but he was playing with Victor Wooten, so he couldn't do it. So he put my name in the hat, and then I met Aaron Lewis, and Aaron put me in the band, and then I traveled with Risen for a couple of years, and until I moved back to Orlando. But yeah, that's how I met Risen, through Aaron. But a friend of mine referred me to that gig, and we became a family. We traveled this country for like almost 2-3 years straight.
Wow.
Like, we were out every weekend. So that was like my first gospel tour. Mm-hmm.
And do you use different gear for when you do tours versus studio work?
Well, let me tell you. So now that I'm older, I get things that I already have. That way I know it like the back of my hand. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. In my younger years, when you were going on tour, I would order things that I would see online and I didn't know how to work it, but I wanted it. I wanted to have it, and I was like kind of like learn on the job. But now that I'm older, I'm like, I don't have time to be trying to learn on the job. I need something that I already know how to do. A lot of things now are triggers. So I'm like, I need to be able to know how to run my triggers and everything in the event that I don't have a tech. So again, no, I try to use the same thing. Like, even with the studio, the only difference is with tour, you'll probably have one drum set opposed to studio. Studio, I have a couple of different drum sets because it just kind of depends upon the style of the music. But as it relates to electronics, I use the same thing at the house that I do on the road.
And what was your inspiration behind Little Drummer Girl?
So a friend of mine, this guy named Corey Johnson, he's out of Jacksonville. He gave me his Christmas CD one year, and oh my God, I fell in love with it, and I played it even when it wasn't Christmas, and I was like, listening to that, I always said I wanted to drive, and I think he gave it to me around 07, 08. So from 07, 08, no, yeah, from 07 to 2015, I wanted to do a Christmas album. And so I remember one Sunday I was at church and I heard this song. And I was like, I'm going to redo this song and make it a Christmas song. Once I heard it, I think I sent one version to David Alden, and then I sent another version to my friend. I'm like, I got one song, but I want to have two different versions of it. And I was like, is that crazy? They were like, nah. I said, this was my concept. The Little Drummer Girl song, I want that to be for musicians. So I told Dave, like, make it where I can open up on the drums. So then I sent another song to my friend, because me being a producer, like, I don't want people that like that's not a musician to hear the Little Drummer Girl and just be like, oh, it's a whole lot of instrumentation. I need them to the consumer to be able to appreciate the album too. So I was like, okay, one song is for musicians and singers. The next song is for people that know nothing about music. They can listen to it. So that song ended up becoming Me and My Drum. So it was just the same song, just two different ways, you know. So, but I remember literally, the whole concept of me hearing a song at church made me want to go home and write to it.
Wow.
And yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I never knew it was the same song two different ways, because I remember when I first heard it, like I was replaying it at work trying to sneak and put my headphones on.
Yeah.
And like you were killing it with the solos, and then I remember and Me and My Drums, like a whole different feel, like a neo soul kind of feel to it.
Yeah, that because I'm telling you, like, so the first song I heard, that was that Little Drummer. That was what I heard at church. But then when I got home, I started playing around the keyboard, and then I was like, oh God, this is more like a Robert the Lasper feel. I'm like, so then I remember telling David, I'm like, give me like a Mary J. Blige for this. Then I told my other friend, I'm like, just make it feel good. And he sent me something back, and he was like, it's kind of like an Erykah Badu bass line. It's going to be something. And when he sent it, I was like, this is perfect. It's the best of both worlds. So people that sing and that don't know nothing about music can just listen to it, and it's not a whole lot of instrumentation, you know. So yeah, that was the inspiration behind that. Yes, same song in two different ways. And then I put the instrumentals on there. I'm like, in the event it's not Christmas time, you want to listen to it and still kind of vibe with it without the lyrics being on it. So, yeah.
Is there going to be a Little Drummer Girl part 2?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm in my moods. It's like I have to be inspired. But the crazy thing is, I put Little Drummer Girl out in 2015, and then I took it offline. And then people started hitting me up, was like, hey sis, I can't find your record. And I was like, oh, I took it off. Why? I was like, it's Christmas music and it's old. So I put it back up 2018. And they were like, so yeah, I don't know. I guess I need to put something else out. I just feel like I just have to be inspired. So if I find another song that inspires me, maybe I will. So I'm not gonna say yes and I'm not gonna say no.
Okay, hey, when you find the inspiration, I can't wait to hear it. And what words of wisdom would you share with a beginner drummer who wants to transition into being a professional one day?
My advice would be to have multiple sources of income, because the industry has really changed. I remember when I started touring was changing your life. You could go buy a house, you could buy a car, like the money was there. Now you have, and here's another thing. If you didn't go to a concert, you couldn't see a concert. We didn't have YouTube, you know, and so with that, people were spending money on tickets. When you're spending money on tickets, you had a bigger budget to pay your musicians. So now, with you know how social media is now, it's like if you want to see a concert, you just go on YouTube.
Sure.
So you know, again, if you want to be a professional musician, you need to have a plan B, because, for example, a lot of people don't talk about this. Once October hits, touring slows down. People are not working in November and December because it's holidays. So, it's like, unless you saving your money, what are you're not making no money. So my thing would be, if you want to be a professional musician, make sure you have something else that can provide income as well. So that would be my advice.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of wisdom there. Has faith played a part in your journey?
Absolutely. So I guess for me, I've always been a person, I feel like I live on faith. Like, I just believe that God is going to provide. I remember when I moved to Atlanta, I didn't have a job. I mean, I had some money saved up, but I moved to Atlanta in like November. I had enough money to last me until maybe like May or June. So I'm like praying, like, God, okay. When May hit, I'm like, okay, my money's starting to run out, and it was like I just believed that God was going to open up a door. I didn't know if it was going to be from touring or church or whatever, and it was like the last month that my money was running out, God opened up a door for me to be able to start playing at church and start getting some money coming in. And then when that season was over, it was like I just really believed that God would provide. Like, for example, I was playing at Bishop Morton's church, had been there 5 years, and the church I was playing at, they were closing. And so they had to let me go. And even with that, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I wasn't worried because I was like, I put my trust in God. And, I went and bought a new car. Like, they let me go in December. I went and got a new car in December. And I was like, God, I know that you're going to be able to provide the resources for me to be able to pay this car payment, even though I don't have a job. And so, yeah, faith plays a big part. You have to really just trust that God is going to provide. But you need to do your part too, whether it be, giving a tithe or however you sow a seed. But yeah, you just really have to trust that God is going to take care of you. But you got to do the work too. But yeah, I literally live by faith. I'm like, whatever I do, I just trust God that He's going to order my steps. And even sometimes if things don't work out, I'm like, it might hurt, it might sting, but it's like, that wasn't for me. And you have to keep that mentality. Like, every door an opportunity that you get, it might not be the door for you, or it might not be the door for you at that particular time. So you just have to trust and believe that whatever you want or whatever it is, that God is going to help you make the best decision. So yeah, faith plays a really huge part on a lot of decisions that I make.
Amen. And just looking at your life, you can see those fruits coming to life.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, just for example. So I was playing at 2 churches, and I was like, man, I only want to play at one church. So I let one church go, and I was like, God, I don't know how I'm gonna make the means for the money that I'm not getting, but I'm gonna trust that you are going to provide. And I left, and they were like, well, you gonna play at another church? I'm like, no. And it's been like 3 years. I've played at church every other week, and God has really been sending other avenues of income. But it's like a lot of times we'll stay into some place that I really feel like we probably should let go because it's convenient and it's comfortable. But I'm like, we'll never be able to reach our potential if we don't step out on faith. Almost like walk out on water. You have to walk on the water. Like, and the thing is, I think a lot of times people stay in situations because they're scared to fail. And my thing is, if you fail, at least you tried. So, yeah, a lot of things I do is I'm just believe God. And I'm like, with me leaving, if it didn't work out, I'm like, I can always go and do something else. But I'm just like, I'm the same God that we always say, we preach and we pray about having faith. like activate your faith, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's me all day. I'm always like gone, just kind of try. I'm a God. I'm like, this is what your word says. Your word says this. Faith without works is dead. You know, I'm gonna work my faith. I'm gonna work what I need to do. Now I need you to help provide what I need. You know, so yeah. To answer your question, yes, faith plays a huge part. You know, of what I do in my life.
So, do you have any final remarks you want to share with our listeners today?
Yeah, this is my thing. Don't be afraid to, you know, live out or try to live your dreams, and be okay with failure. Failure only makes you better. You know that if you fail, you'll know, hey, this is what I need to work on. So I know we running out of time, but yeah, that would be my advice.
Okay. Hey.
Pick yourself up.
I'm gonna have to write that down myself.
Serious, bro. You gotta be okay. You gotta be okay with failing and then learning from your mistakes. Yes, thank you for having me. I do want to say that. Appreciate the opportunity to just share and talk to you.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity for letting me interview you.
You gotta bring me back.
Sure, definitely.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be looking forward to it.
Thank you for listening to Behind the Music, the show where we interview extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. I pray that y'all were blessed by the interview with Jlatoyia, because I know I was.